Dead Rising is one of the best games to come out in 2006. One of the best may not seem like much praise, but it says a lot given it was a pretty stacked year. I personally think it's the best game from that year, but there were so many good offerings and experiments it feels like a disservice to claim that title without going through the entire catalog to determine a winner. At the very least, without comparison, it's a great game, and a successful twist on a niche genre that managed to get everyone's attention when it came out, even from people who weren't necessarily interested with what it really offered. So that sounds like a simple yes to the should you play question, right? Wrong. It's a bit more complicated than that. First, what's the game about? You play as photojournalist Frank West, who is pursuing a tip he received, leading him to the town of Willamette, Colorado. When Frank arrives at the local mall, he quickly discovers that the town is in the midst of a zombie outbreak. From there, his goal is to uncover what happened, and he has 3 days to do so until help arrives. The premise is simple, but the game ends up having a deeper delivery and tonal balance than most stories, which is best experienced blind, so that's about all I'll say. But even when the game first came out, story didn't take the spotlight. The hordes of zombies and how you could kill them did. See, Dead Rising is a pretty unique title. While technically survival horror in design, the overall gameplay gives you more freedom than the other titles in the genre that typically restrict movement or make orientation part of the challenge. Dead Rising controls more like a rigid action or hack and slash title. It has a leveling system to unlock stat boosts, and the whole thing is wrapped up in a small free roam sandbox. The developers put a great deal of focus on how players could express themselves through the various items available in the mall and how they could be used as weapons. Frank could learn various unarmed attacks and maneuvers as he levels up, and at all times a kill counter is located on the bottom of the screen. This style of play is welcoming, but at a surface level, because beneath that is a very different experience. It bears repeating that Dead Rising is a survival horror game, but it is also the pinnacle of a somewhat antiquated method of play where you are expected to play the game repeatedly to understand the layout and the challenges it offers to complete it efficiently, or complete it at all. Similar to how you would play early 2D platformers like Mega Man or Castlevania. This extends to the save system. While there are manual save locations, there are no checkpoints in Dead Rising. Instead, if you die, you'll have the option of restarting the game from the beginning with all your status progression intact. This may seem daunting, but it works in tandem with the scale and layout of the game. All of Dead Rising's offerings are built around a global timer, and outside of early game penalties or pausing the game, there is no way to influence it. Every case you pursue and every survivor encounter adheres to a schedule based around the timer, with a set start time and deadline that remains the same each time you play. Because of this blend, most of the critique the game receives is aimed at the mechanics that were seen as restrictive, that actually hold the whole thing together. I talked a lot about these rules and mechanics, and that is because how the content is structured is more important than the content itself. Dead Rising, similar to other games in the genre, is relatively short on its own. Its maximum length falling below 10 hours, only going beyond that with repeats for multiple endings, grinding multiple different playthroughs, or naturally falling into the flow of trial and error that the game warrants. In this game more than others, your experience with it, the overall difficulty, and what the game appears to offer changes based on what you choose to do in it. Put simply, Dead Rising has 3 main focuses, but at a glance most people only see one of them: the zombies. They're simple enough, being the main enemy and an ever-present obstacle that determines how you navigate them all. Either you need to be prepared, bring the right tools, know the right paths, or be ready to slam yourself into the hordes to get through them. But if you view them as the main draw, you're likely to be disappointed, as they work best when used as a backdrop for working on one or both of our other main focuses: cases, which are the main missions, and other survivors. Your interactions with them being your only real source of side content. Rescuing, recruiting, and in some cases fighting with them. Pushing yourself to save as many people as possible and completing cases before their deadlines while managing your approaches through the hordes of zombies is what makes the Dead Rising experience. Finding yourself in a position where you are escorting 3 or more survivors while you have a case that needs to be started, a 10-minute enemy-filled trek between where you are in the safe room and how you handle it, prepare for it, or avoid that situation altogether is what the game is about. If you try to do everything in one go on your first try, the game won't hold your hand in that. You set your difficulty by choosing how much to do at any one time each playthrough. And even seasoned players will struggle to do everything without some kind of plan, especially if you are starting from level 1. On the other hand, if you did just want to kill some zombies, you can do that too. Ignore the main story, ignore the survivors, and have at it. The game won't force you into anything or restrict what you can do, although I'd think you'd be missing out. So, should you play Dead Rising? I certainly think so. The game can prove challenging, at least when compared to some of the more popular survival outings, but once you get over the initial difficulty curve and understand the rigidity of the game, Dead Rising is a well-polished experience you can't quite get out of other offerings, where adjusting your difficulty is intertwined with a workload you as the player determine as you play. It's one of the few titles available that utilizes time limits well and non-arbitrarily. It has an intriguing atmosphere that balances humor and drama in service of a story with surprisingly grounded moments. And beyond all that, it's just a fun game for anyone who understands it, with entertaining gameplay that challenges you to play optimally, if you're up to it, and if you aren't, well, there's plenty of zombies to kill.